The vibrant, sun-baked village of Wosom was famous for its rich cocoa farms and its even richer gossip. Yet, for 12-year-old Kojo, Wosom was just the place where his best friend, a scruffy, three-legged mongrel named Shadow, was dying. Shadow had been Kojo's constant companion since the boy found him abandoned near the village elder's sacred obechi tree. Now, a mysterious wasting sickness, which the village healer Auntie Mame darkly whispered was a spirit's grudge, had taken hold. The disease was highly contagious, Auntie Mame warned the villagers. She decreed that Shadow must be taken deep into the Blackwater forest and left to fate, lest the grudge spread to the community. Kojo refused. He chained himself to Shadow's kennel near the crumbling mud brick of his family's compound, his skinny arms wrapped protectively around the dog's feverish body. "He is family, Auntie Mame," Kojo declared, his voice thin but ringing with conviction. "I will not abandon him." The villagers, initially sympathetic, soon turned cold. Fear, hot and thick as the humidity before a storm, began to swirl. They feared the sickness, yes, but mostly they feared what they might have to give up for the sake of one boy and one sick dog. Kojo's defiance was a pebble thrown into a still pond, and the ripples were about to become a tidal wave of accusation. He was labeled obstinate, selfish, a curse bringer, the exact opposite of the lesson he was about to teach. Kojo's mother, Adwoa, a woman known for her fierce loyalty, supported her son, but the growing village paranoia was a tangible force, pushing against their compound walls. The elders held an emergency meeting in the Durbar Square. The consensus was harsh: exile for Kojo and Shadow if the boy did not comply by the next sunrise. Desperate, Kojo sought out the one person who might have a real answer: Mr. Mensah, the educated pharmacist who had moved to Wosom from Accra and was viewed with suspicion for his modern ways. Mr. Mensah, a quiet man with kind eyes, examined Shadow. "This is no spirit's grudge, Kojo," he said, his voice low. "It's a bacterial infection, severe and aggressive, from drinking contaminated water. The illness is not contagious among humans." He prescribed a potent, modern antibiotic, expensive and difficult to obtain, as it was technically forbidden by the elders who trusted only Auntie Mame's herbal remedies. "I need 3 days of this," Mr. Mensah whispered, pressing the foil packet into Kojo's hand. "But they will know what you are doing. The true scandalous part of this illness, Kojo, is that the source is not a spirit. The source is the village's only clean well, which only the village chief, Nana Owusu, controls and claims to purify." Kojo's eyes widened. This was not about a dog, this was about something far, far worse. Kojo returned to his compound, the secret burning a hole in his tattered pocket. If Mr. Mensah was right, then Shadow was just the first victim of a much larger, preventable tragedy. Nana Owusu, the revered chief, a man who spoke eloquently of tradition and communal health, was knowingly supplying the village with toxic water. Kojo knew he couldn't simply announce this. The entire village's belief system and authority structure would collapse, and he would be accused of treason. He began treating Shadow, crushing the pills and mixing them with ground cassava. The dog was weak but still showed a flicker of fight. Kojo then began his reconnaissance. He observed Nana Owusu's compound, a sprawling structure built on the highest, driest ground. He noticed that the chief never drank from the main village well. Instead, a young, nervous housemaid, Akos, was always seen carrying water from a small, hidden spring just behind the chief's private yam storage shed. This spring was located on a small, untouched patch of land that Nana Owusu insisted was a sacred burial ground, strictly forbidden to all. The chief's water was clear. The villager's well was often murky after a heavy rain. The pieces clicked into place, not as a mystical curse, but as a deliberate act of elite self-preservation. The truth wasn't just scandalous, it implicated the moral center of Wosom. Kojo realized the true lesson he needed to teach wasn't about loyalty to a pet, but about the hidden cost of unquestioning obedience. Kojo needed proof and he needed an ally. He approached Akos, the young maid, near the river where she washed clothes. Akos, thin and constantly looking over her shoulder, was initially terrified. "Nana Owusu will have my tongue. The spirits will punish me," she wailed softly. Kojo appealed not to her fear of the chief, but to her fear of the growing sickness. 2 more villagers, both children, had been afflicted that week. Kojo revealed his own secret, the diagnosis from Mr. Mensah. He explained that Shadow was getting better because of clean medicine, but the children would only get sicker because of dirty water. Akos, who had a young sister, finally broke. She confessed that she had often noticed Nana Owusu pouring a strange reddish powder, a natural preservative for his export-grade cocoa beans, into the main well after the rainy season to keep the water from turning green, believing it to be a harmless tradition. The preservative, however, contained a trace toxin. Akos, overcome with guilt and fear, also revealed a juicy village secret. The chief's sacred spring was only for his private use, and he had been selling the surplus clean water to a neighboring wealthier village for a substantial profit. His entire self-purification ritual was a sham to hide his double-dealing and greed. Kojo had his ally and a scandal that would rock Wosom to its foundations, not a political drama, but a betrayal of public trust over water and profit. The next day was market day, the one time the entire community and many visitors from surrounding villages gathered in Wosom's central square. This was Kojo's chance to reveal the chief's secret without being immediately silenced. He knew he couldn't speak. No one would believe a boy who defied the elders for a dog. He needed to use the one thing everyone trusted, the evidence of their own eyes. Akos, trembling but determined, smuggled a small gourd of water from the chief's secret spring. Kojo meanwhile wrapped a strip of white cloth, soaked in a bright blue vegetable dye, around Shadow's healing leg. His goal was to make a spectacle of the forbidden. He planned to walk right into the market with Shadow, thereby drawing all eyes to the cursed boy and his dog. The moment Kojo and Shadow, still a little wobbly but clearly recovering, appeared at the market's edge, a wave of stunned silence rippled through the stalls. Auntie Mame began to shout about the curse, and the elders moved to seize Kojo. It was exactly the distraction Kojo needed. As the attention fixed on the cursed pair, Akos slipped through the crowd unnoticed, carrying the crucial evidence. The boy's unwavering loyalty to his dog had created the perfect chaos for a revelation. Akos moved swiftly toward the main, public well, the source of Wosom's sickness. She didn't pour the secret water in, that would be too subtle. Instead, she took out the chief's gourd and placed it directly next to the well's communal bucket, clearly labeled with an ornate carving that was unmistakably Nana Owusu's emblem. She then stood back, her heart pounding a frantic dum-dum against her ribs, and waited. The villagers' attention was torn. They watched Kojo, whose very presence was a shocking act of defiance against the elders' ruling of exile, and they watched Akos, who now pointed a shaking finger at the two water sources. The chief's private spring water was crystal clear, untouched by the reddish tint of the well water. A nervous murmur spread through the crowd as they began to notice the undeniable difference. Why did the chief's water look so pure while theirs, supposedly blessed, looked tainted? A bolder farmer, Kwame, who had just lost a goat to a similar wasting, scooped a cup of the chief's water and tasted it. He then tasted the well water. "This is a lie," Kwame roared, his voice thick with realization and fury. "This clean water is what Nana Owusu drinks. The well water tastes of metal." The scandal was now undeniable. The chief's strict preservation of a sacred spring was not piety, it was pure, selfish deceit. The chief, seeing his secret exposed, rushed into the square, his flowing Kent cloth whipping around him. He did not deny the two water sources. Instead, he spun a desperate, manipulative lie. "That boy. He has poisoned my private spring." Nana Owusu shouted, pointing a trembling hand at Kojo. "This is the spirit's grudge Auntie Mame spoke of. Kojo used his dog's illness to poison my water so I would fall ill and the village would have no leader. He is a traitor." The chief's accusation was powerful. It was easier to believe in a vengeful boy and a curse than in the betrayal of their revered leader. The crowd hesitated, their momentum broken by fear and tradition. It was Kojo's turn. He stepped forward, Shadow limping faithfully by his side. Kojo pointed to the blue dye still marking Shadow's now healing leg. He then pointed to the two sick children who had been brought to the market. If Shadow's sickness is a contagious curse from the water, why is he getting better and why are the children still sick? Kojo challenged, his voice cracking with emotion. "Shadow is better because he drank clean medicine, not because the spirits favor me. The real illness is in the well. The chief poisoned us because he wanted his cocoa beans to look good for profit, and he kept the good water to himself. He taught us a valuable lesson: unquestioning trust can kill you." Kojo's simple, devastating logic pierced through the village's fear. The chief's elaborate web of lies, the sacred spring, the harmless preservative, the spirit's grudge, had all unraveled. The sight of Shadow, weak but alive and improving, contrasted sharply with the genuine worsening sickness of the children. It was empirical evidence stronger than any superstition. The priceless lesson Kojo taught was not just about loyalty to a friend, but about courageous truth in the face of corrupt authority. The villagers, finally seeing the truth, turned their anger on the chief. The ensuing, non-violent confrontation forced Nana Owusu to admit to using the preservative and selling the good water. He was stripped of his title by the gathered clan heads. Kojo, the boy who refused to abandon his dog, became an unlikely, quiet hero. His defiance had not cursed Wosom, it had purified it, saving countless lives. Kojo and Shadow, now fully recovered, were given the honor of being the first to break the clay seal on the newly cleaned well, overseen by the new, honest chief. The priceless lesson Kojo taught was this: true loyalty extends beyond your own house to the entire community, and sometimes the deepest betrayal comes from the very people you are conditioned to revere. Kojo achieved his goal. His devotion to Shadow saved not only the dog, but the village's health and its soul, revealing a juicy scandal that changed Wosom forever.